Truth Traveler Radio Show. I'm your guide tonight. I'm Erin Dakins. It is Thursday, February 13th of 2014, and it's still cold and snowy, at least where I am. I know spring's somewhere out there. We have seen the sun a couple days this week. I was starting to think maybe the sun really left and just nobody told me. And it was actually kind of nice out in the sun today for a little bit. Gives me hope, anyway. I will tell you this, that with all of the odd weather, we had 49 states that had snow in them. There's also been, and you won't hear this on the mainstream news, but in a lot of the states down south, in the big cities, also in Philadelphia, there's been a tremendous amount of looting and rioting. Isn't that special? So I just wanted to let you know that, so things are not as pretty as everybody thinks they are. I'm very pleased to have with us a guest tonight that I was looking for somebody that could talk realistically without getting all New Age and guru-ish, and I'm going to go hum at the sun as it rises over Sedona in Arizona. I wanted somebody to speak scientifically about what effects, if any, are in Sedona that everybody talks about. And I found the perfect guest. I want you all to turn your lights down low, just relax, and learn some very interesting things from one man's quest, one man's journey, his research for over 10 years now, and what he's discovered. His name is Benjamin Lonetree, and his website is SedonaAnomalies.weebly.com. You can find it there. He's also got interviews and videos up on YouTube. All the links are up on thetruthtraveler.com. Okay, so you can follow them there. He is an electrical engineer, and I believe when he first kind of heard about Sedona, he kind of really didn't think much about it, like, yeah, right, okay. But I think it's changed his life, so we're going to let him tell you his story. Welcome to the show tonight, Benjamin Lonetree.
Oh, yes. Can you hear me okay?
You're breaking up just a little bit. Let's go on just a little bit, see how it goes. We may have to reconnect you.
Okay, I may have to back off on the microphone gain a little bit, too. I'll talk a little softer. I'm doing very well, and just to let you know, it was almost 80 degrees here today, and we do have sun, so hold out hope it will be there.
I think it'll come back. I think we may try to reconnect with you.
Okay.
Hang on, Ben, just a minute. Let me see. Okay, we're going to reconnect, so just hang up from your Skype, and the studio will contact you again, see if we get a better connection, okay? All right. Guys, we'll have Ben Lonetree back here in just a little bit. I'd like to try to get a better connection for you because his work is phenomenal. I mean, I haven't even been through all of the site yet. There's just so much on there. He's done a lot of scientific research into what's going on in Sedona. And these are reproducible. Okay, he's reconnected. Ben, let's see how you sound now.
Yes, is this a little bit better?
Actually, it's not, but we're going to go forward with this.
Okay, if necessary, I can call in with one of the telephones, too.
If that's not going to cost you a lot in long-distance charges, Ben, I think I'd like to have you do that.
Okay, let me bring up the email here and get the number. And
my board op will just mute your mic on this end, and you can give it right to him. Ben, how's that? Okay, there he is. Okay, we're going to try to reconnect the telephone so that we can have a good, because I want you guys to hear this. I mean, this is phenomenal research. It's reproducible. He has discovered there is something there, and I was doing a little research, too, especially after Josh Reed was on Monday, about there's a lot that goes on these 33rd degree parallels, and Sedona is really, really close to that, too. So, what is it? What is it with these areas? What did the ancients know that perhaps were maybe a little too dingy to figure out? But they knew something. And his work is going to show you a little bit of maybe what they knew, and we just are now starting to figure this out. You see a lot of videos on YouTube about about the New Age people, and they go there and they don't look at it scientifically either. There is something to these sites. There is something that's going on. I don't know exactly what it is, except that it's like he said. It's, hang on, I'm going to type a number to him. There's something with the electromagnetics. There's something with the Earth and what she does, and this isn't something it's not, when you go there, it's not everywhere. There are certain places where these vortices are stronger, and they ebb and flow. They're not a constant thing at all. And he's measured all of this, and he's even got on his website where you can go see a lot of the graphs and charts that he's taken these measurements on, and it shows you where there's a big inflow, okay, and it shows you where there's an outflow, and it shows you where these vortices are. And he talks a lot about Persinger's work. Now, if you don't know who that is, just Google it, Persinger. He's also got links on his website to it, to try to figure out, what makes humans so susceptible to these magnetic inflows and outflows, the ebb and flow of that. Is there something to that? And he's done a lot of work with that, so it's really interesting. I mean, you get a lot of people now and we've had people on the show to talk about entrainment through various frequencies and what it can do to the mind, the brain waves of the mind. And to me, that's really fascinating as well, because there's something to this. I know that when I listen to certain things in a certain tone and a certain frequency, it can relax me. It can kind of almost like recharge or reboot my brain a little bit. Trust me, I need that probably every hour. But then you get the other opposite end of that effect. You can get some of the tones and frequencies too that just almost make you go ballistic. They get you sometimes energized maybe in the wrong way. Or you can have tones and frequencies that relax you so much you almost go to sleep. I guess they don't call it elevator music for nothing, right? So, are you back, Ben? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
I've been listening to your description. That's pretty good.
Well, your work is phenomenal. I'm so glad I found you. Oh, and you sound so much better now. Thank you. Tell everybody, when you first heard about Sedona, what you thought.
Oh, well, what I thought was most of what was going on up there was just something for the tourists. My first visit there was back in 1999, and of course I saw all of the signs, vortex tours, and several other things, and a lot of the mysticism put in with that. So being an engineer and being scientifically based, in the beginning I set out to debunk it, to disprove it. I work with another thing called VLF recording, which is very low frequency. This is recording sounds from the atmosphere that occur at the same frequency range as human hearing. And the first time I took that particular equipment up to Sedona and set it up, I was amazed because it was stronger than any other part in the country where I had tried it before. So I realized something was up there, but I wasn't sure what. Took me about another 1 to 2 years, and I built what was called a very large induction magnetometer, which is used for measuring magnetism. I originally set up on a couple of dome vortices, and lo and behold, it started indicating that there was an outflow or an inflow of magnetism occurring at that particular spot. It took roughly another 4 to 5 years to perfect the equipment even further and to redesign it with a little bit better filtering, because you can get interference from the power grid and other man-made noise. So once I eliminated that, so I was just strictly picking up natural earth energy, it was just phenomenal. And it only existed in Sedona. As soon as I removed the equipment and took it out away from the red rocks, let's say over to Cottonwood or one of the nearby places that didn't have the Fe2O3 iron oxide coloration, I did not have that phenomena. So I was off and running from there, Erin, and it's been an adventure ever since.
From your website, I would say it's been quite the adventure, and I mean, obviously I'm not a physicist or anything that bright, trust me, but the stuff that you guys have found out, you and Iona Miller both, as you work together, it blows me away, because I think there are many different places around the planet that the ancients knew that there was something special about that area, and we're just now starting to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. The Native Americans that lived around the Sedona area, they did not live in Sedona proper. That was a place, it was a spiritual place for them where they could go to worship. You could have two warring tribes, and they could meet in Sedona, do their prayers, and receive instructions, if you want to call it that, and then go out a couple miles away and start warring again. Now, to describe what is happening in a nutshell up in Sedona, I make reference on the website to Dr. Michael Persinger's research, and he is up at Laurentia University up in Canada. Now, what he has found, him and another gentleman created what's called the Koren helmet, and what it is, it resembles, or the first one resembles a football helmet, and they put what's called solenoids. Those are little coils of wire inside of the helmet, so when you would wear this thing, you would have, how do I describe this, like little speaker coils placed all over different key points on your head, and in particular over the temporal lobes of the brain. Now, what Dr. Persinger did with that is he would feed rotating magnetic fields into that helmet to the different coil solenoids and trigger feelings and experiences through the temporal lobes of the brain that would give people the feeling that God was standing behind them, or there was an omnipotent force standing behind them. That's why the helmet later on got the name the God helmet, because people, when they wore it, and he injected the rotating magnetic fields, they thought they were in the presence of God. So when I started studying his research a decade ago, I wonder if the same thing was happening in Sedona. So I improved on the equipment some more so I could monitor the magnetic energy that leaves the ground in certain areas in Sedona.
Okay, hold it right there, Ben. We got our commercial break, so hold it right there, and we'll get right back to that after these messages, and you're listening to The Truth Traveler. Welcome back to The Truth Traveler, and our guest tonight is Benjamin Lonetree. His website is sedonaAnomalies.weebly.com, or just type in his name. You'll pull it up, I promise. Tons of information and research on their listeners, just tons, if you really want to figure out what's going on. Okay, right before the break, you started to talk about some of the things that you made to test, what was going on here at Sedona.
Yes, and what I found up there, just a quick correction, the website is actually Sedona Anomalies rather than Sedona Anomalies at Weeby. Otherwise, you end up there with two A's in it, so it's just one A and then Anomalies.
Okay.
So what I discovered up there, Erin, is that the magnetic energy that emits from certain spots in Sedona is also in a spiraling-like action, so it's like a vortex. Now, that got me to thinking when I discovered that, okay, could natural Earth magnetism have the same effect on the human mind as Dr. Persinger's God helmet did, because he used computer-generated rotating magnetic fields. And at this point, I can go on and on here, but I would say yes, that is definitely what's happening there. Now, how I proved that is as technology became more available to regular people, I acquired a portable EEG machine for monitoring our brain waves. So I set up the equipment for monitoring the magnetic energy emitting out of the ground in Sedona. while simultaneously monitoring my brain waves. And lo and behold, whenever there would be a spike in energy, let's say outward magnetism flowing out of the Earth in Sedona, I would see a little blip in my brainwave activity.
Okay.
And this happened over and over and over and time again. So what I'm in the process of doing now is I'm going to be testing this some more people up there, more volunteers, so I can conclusively say not only did it have that effect on me, I can validate it by doing that with other people. Now, and don't hesitate to interrupt me anytime you want, because once I get started, I'm on a roll.
Well, I do have a question for you real quick, and this is a real short segment, so we're going to be breaking for a break again. Then we'll come back with a long segment. I don't even know if you can explain this. How can it come out? How can the magnetism come out of the Earth and be a circular motion, a vortice like that? Is there so much energy pulling it one way? Is that how that happens?
Oh, no. How that works is Sedona geologically, if you go to the website, my original one, there's a link to the U.S. Geological Survey. They did an aeromagnetic flyover of the area, and they measured all of the magnetism. So the United States government did this. And what they have found is beneath Sedona is a huge layer of quartz, and they feel that the quartz crystals are emitting their own magnetic field. But also, Sedona at one time was very volcanic, and they have what's called solidified volcanic plugs. Those would be like vents or shafts where lava and steam would come up millions of years ago. They've solidified, and they feel that the natural magnetism within the Earth gets in these tubes or shafts or plugs, as they call them, and as the magnetism starts coming up that, it starts spiraling. So when it emits out of the plug and out of the surface of the Earth, it's in a spiraling action. So geologically, there's an explanation why that happens.
Interesting. Okay, that makes sense. It makes sense. Okay, very interesting. Well, we're going to be up on a break here real quick.
Sure.
I just have to ask one thing, because this shouldn't take too long, maybe. When you visit and you're standing there on one of the vortices and it's actually kicked in, do you feel, I'm sure you feel something.
Yeah.
Like a peace?
I've taken people up there and seen them burst into laughter, and I've seen other people break down and start crying. So the best way I describe this, and number one, if you're going to experience, women are more prone to experience the energy that's up there than men are, and there's a reason for that. Briefly, it has been found, I had a friend of mine that was the senior engineer that helped develop the MRI brain scan for GE Medical Systems years ago, and he did extensive research on this. In our inner ear fluid, we have magnetite, which is a magnetic mineral substance. Mm-hmm. Women have an 80% higher concentration of magnetite in their inner ear fluid than what men do. So when you're...
Well, that's why we're more sensitive. That's right. Hey, we've got another break. We'll be right back after these messages, and you're listening to The Truth Traveler. The Traveler, and our guest is Benjamin Lone Tree. His website is, and I'm going to spell it this time because I think people might be getting confused, SEDONAMALIES.Weebly. Weebly is WEEBLY.com. And there are all the links up to both his websites are on thetruthtraveler.com too, listeners, so you can check it out. Okay, Benjamin, this is our long segment, so I'm just going to turn you loose and explain to the listeners, if you would, the frequencies, the Schumann resonance. You've totally investigated all of this, and it's really fascinating.
Oh my, how many days do you have?
I've got a lot, but anyway, well, we'll have you back on too, because I think there's a lot here, and I just want you to kind of give people a brief understanding. We can get into it more at a later date, but give them an idea of what you're talking about.
Sure. Now, to back up a little bit, back with regards to women having a higher concentration of magnetite in their inner ear fluid, which, in our opinion, is making them more susceptible, more intuitive, more in tune with what's going on within the planet and external from the planet. Two things can be happening with magnetic energy stimulation. It's either being detected by the temporal lobes of the brain, or detected by the magnetite in the inner ear fluid, which I suspect is the main cause for this. So the next time anybody's wife or girlfriend mentions she feels different or funny in a certain area, she's telling you the truth. And I validated that a lot.
Well, you know, I can prove it because we did visit the Serpent Mound in Ohio this past fall. Now, it's along the 33-degree parallel, and there's a meteor crater right next to it. Okay, so there's tons of weird minerals there, right? Lots of quartz. I started crying. I felt like an idiot. Okay, it's like I just started crying. It's like, Erin, what is wrong with you?
Sure.
I didn't realize that women had more magnetite in their ear canals than men. I guess I didn't even think about humans having it all, to be honest with you. I know the birds do, that type of thing, but I never really thought about that in women. Now, thank you, because now that makes sense.
Yeah, very much so. And it's something everyone's born with. That does not mean that a man cannot have the experience of vortex. We just have to be able to calm ourselves a little bit more. That's the key to experiencing this, is to be in a relaxed, calm, non-analytical state and allow whatever's going to happen to you happen. Just be at peace with it and let it come out. Women are able to do that more than men, either because we're more analytical or whatever the reason is. But a man can still experience it. Okay, moving forward, let's go into Schumann resonance. Now, what Schumann resonance is, if you look at the surface of the planet, the surface of the Earth is a big ball. Look at the planet as a ball, and of course you have the surface. If you look at the atmosphere up above us, that is also in the shape of a ball. That atmosphere is broken down into layers. There's the E layer, the F1 layer, F2 layer, and there's what's called the D layer. Now, the D layer is an ionized layer. During the daytime, the emissions from the sun charge it with ions, and at night that ion level drops. But if you look at that D layer as another sphere or a ball, and you picture the Earth inside of it, picture a ball within a ball. Now, between the surface of the Earth and that D layer, which is reflective, look at that as a cavity. They call it the Earth guide, or the Earth's planet's waveguide. At any given moment, any given second, somewhere on the planet, there is at least 100 to 200 lightning strikes happening somewhere on the planet. If you look at a bell and you take the clapper and the bell and you strike it against the side of the bell rings. The lightning acts as a clapper, and it rings that spherical waveguide or hollow cavity formed between the surface of the planet and the D layer. So that cavity starts ringing, but it rings at 7 different frequencies, and those frequencies are called the Schumann resonance. Now, an interesting thing, the 7 Schumann resonances occur at the same frequency as our human brainwave activity happens. So Dr. Schumann, who is credited with proving they existed back in 1952, although since then now they credit Tesla, because Tesla hypothesized they were real way back when he was going. Schumann had a student that said, okay, as humans evolved on the planet or were placed here, however we got here, we were subjected to the natural Schumann resonances, and our body's nervous system and brainwave activity developed as a product of the Schumann resonances. The human brain works like what they call a phase-lock loop. Now, what a phase-lock loop is electronically is any signal external that's operating at a certain frequency, a phase-lock loop will lock onto that and resonate with it. And that's what happens with our brains, with the human mind. And it's like you were saying earlier, where some people are bothered by certain RF energy or magnetic energy, our brain is locking into that signal. And if it's a signal that's very high, like the power grid, people complain about it, that happens at 60 hertz, 60 cycles. That corresponds to a brainwave state of high beta activity. When we're in a dominant state of beta, we're very agitated. We don't feel right. We're not comfortable. And when you hear about people complaining about power line noise and it bothers them, that's why their brain is locking into that. So you hit the nail on the head before when you were talking about that. Now, Schumann resonance is so important to our well-being, our state of mind, and our health. We're electromagnetic beings. Yes, we have a physical existence, but the bulk of what we are electromagnetic energies and firings going on within our brain and also within the body with nerve endings in our nervous system. Schumann resonance is so important to us that even NASA, for decades now, has been incorporating synthesized Schumann resonance generators on board the spacecraft. Because
Really?
when the craft leaves our atmosphere, the astronauts don't have that naturally anymore. And they found since they've been doing that now, we can do long-duration space missions, and we maintain very, very good equilibrium because we have it synthesized for us. The sad thing today, because there's so much electromagnetic pollution, either from the power grid, cell phones, televisions, you name it, smart meters, those signals are stronger than naturally occurring signals like Schumann resonance that our body needs to maintain well-being. So we get knocked off kilter. We're not in a healthy environment because we're not living naturally anymore.
Right. Well, they talk about earthing, and earthing is just basically walking around your bare feet on the earth to kind of pull you back into your resonant frequency with the Schumann resonance. So
yes,
it does, yes. It's fantastic. So what you're saying is true. We have so much interference now with the Wi-Fi, the smart meters, everything. It's like there's times I'm okay if the power goes out for a few days with a snowstorm because you know what? There's a sudden peace.
Yes, absolutely.
So
that's why it would not hurt for people that are sensitive and they're bothered by it. There's a lot of them out on the market. They're called Schumann resonance generators, and you can put one in your bedroom or whatever. And they operate at the first Schumann resonance frequency, which basically is 7.83 hertz, 7.83 cycles per second, which is below the range of human hearing, but it's still something that's running there, and your brain is going to lock into that. Now, the brain works like a phase-locked loop, so if we lock into that signal at 7.83, you're in a state of alpha, theta, somewhere around there, which a lot of people enter when they're in a meditative state. So synthesized Schumann resonance is very good to have in your house because it'll help you maintain equilibrium rather than, and it'll override all of the power grid and everything else we have running in our homes now.
I think that's
but ideally,
awesome
you're
idea.
right. It would be really good if we could live without the grid and get back to nature, but what's here is here to stay, so what we have to do is compensate for that and learn to live with it.
That's right. Now, how does the Sedona, how do the vortices play in with the Schumann resonance?
Okay, this is another beneficial thing about Sedona. To make this simpler, if you look at a speaker inside of, you take a speaker out of your stereo or whatever you have it in, and how a speaker works is you have a permanent magnet, a big magnet on the back, and in front of it you have a coil of wire. So when your sound is coming from your stereo and it goes into that coil of wire, it's putting electromagnetic energy into the wire, and the big magnet behind it amplifies it, and that vibrates a diaphragm in the front, and then, of course, you have the cone, the funnel in front of the speaker, so it comes out loud and you can hear it. It's electromagnetic energy being converted into sound frequency. Now, in Sedona, because Sedona is red, that's Fe2O3, that's iron oxide, and there's a tremendous amount of magnetite in Sedona also. So when you're in that area and you're on a vortex, and if the outflow of magnetic energy is strong enough, I have recorded Schumann resonance at the same time in that particular spot, and Schumann resonance is enhanced. So not only are you getting brain stimulation directly from the magnetic energy that emits there, you're also experiencing Schumann resonance in hands in the same area. So because Schumann is stronger, you're taken into a natural state, and the magnetic energy is also stimulating you and just opening up so many doors. Now, two areas to discuss very briefly here. There's two types of energy up there. There's magnetic outflows of energy, and then they call them inflowing vortices. Now, the reason for that is whenever you have an outflow of magnetic energy, the laws of physics states it has to reconnect back into the planet. Magnetism, they call it a dipole. It's dual polarity, so, but it leaves the planet, it's got to come back in. If you are on a spot where it's emitting from the planet, or called an outflow, you feel uplifted. And this is from my own research and other people that are already up there. You get this.
Okay, Ben, hold it right there. We got another break. We'll be right back after this, and you're listening to The Truth Traveler. Welcome back to The Truth Traveler. Our guest tonight is Benjamin Montry, and we're discussing the Sedona anomalies. And right before the break, you had mentioned you were starting to talk about the outflow. So let's go ahead go ahead and talk about that, Ben.
Sure. When you're in an outflow of energy, you feel like you can project out. These aren't scientific words, but you feel like you can project out into the universe. So an outflow of energy, and I can say this and understand why a lot of the people that are up there claim this, an outflow is a good place to be in to release negativity, to get whatever's inside of you and get rid of it. Now, when you're in what's called an inflowing magnetic field, I'll give you an instance. I laid down on an inflow one time, spent about 10 minutes, and I could hardly pull myself off the rock and get back up. It's a feeling like you're being pulled into the planet. So an inflow is very, very good for being in for, I'll call it introspection, if you want to go inside yourself to work through different issues. Okay. So that's part of why Sedona is very, very spiritual, or called spiritual, because it's a great place to do inner work on yourself. But it's just phenomenal for it. Now, another school of thought with this, and going back to the U.S. Geological Survey's study of the area, they have also found that the quartz crystals that are beneath all of the red iron oxide rust that gives Sedona the red color is emitting they're emitting their own magnetic fields. And that tends to distort the Earth's natural magnetic field in that area, so that's stimulating too. Now, another way to look at this briefly is if you look at a transistor is made up of silicon, let's say quartz, or one of the versions of the original transistors, and then you have an insulating material, and on the emitter or the collector, you're going to have a metallic substrate. So the whole Sedona area, due to the geological structure of it, is like one big transistor, Erin. So what can you do with this? Is it like a big area, like a transmitter, and could it also be a receiver? Why not? Geologically,
why not?
It has all of the components to do that.
Well, that's right. It could be. Now, okay, this is going to be a little, we may not have time for this, but this is going to be a little goofy. But since you know I own it pretty well, and I know she still talks to Rick, so I know she knows all this stuff. What about these frequencies? You know how they can use frequencies to put thoughts in our head, okay? You know, the nice little military people have been working on that for a long time. Could they use some of these frequencies in Sedona to do that too?
I think the natural energy that exists in Sedona is stronger than that. When I first started going there, I did a lot of nighttime ventures out into the back area. And I want to call it confronted, because there was a thought route, or a thought put into my mind asking me what I wanted. What was I doing there? And it felt like I had 1,000 eyes looking at me. Ooh. I don't know how else to describe it. And it was very, very unnerving. And all I said verbally was, I mean no respect, and then I left. I don't go into Sedona Outback at night anymore. Is it military? Is it military? I would say no. It's something beyond that. What
Well, no, I just wondered if they could use it. You know, they tend to ruin everything, Ben. You know, they come in and take over places and ruin them. I just wondered if they were going to try to do that with Sedona.
I don't think it's possible. They could try, but Sedona's such a strong natural earth energy, it would be pretty hard to override it. Now, they could put what's called like a subcarrier or impose another instruction or signal on top of the natural energy that's there. But if such were the case, my equipment would see it, and I'm not seeing any evidence of that. I am seeing another signal in the Sedona area that they call it a very narrow Q, so it's natural earth energy is very broad in frequency. This is a very, very narrow frequency that it occupies, and it's very near 9 hertz, and it is not a harmonic of the power grid. I don't know what it is yet. I do not think it's military, but I haven't put my finger on it yet. I see it.
Okay.
I don't know what it is.
Be interesting to find out maybe someday. I don't know. We have a lot of questions, don't we? All of us.
Oh, this is ongoing. My equipment has evolved to the point now where I'm able to detect energy emitting from a fault line anywhere from days to 2 weeks before an earthquake hits. But that's
we gotta talk about that. Yeah. Okay. We'll be right. This is our long break. We got the news followed by some commercials, and we'll be right back. And you're listening to the Truth Traveler. Anomalies. Ben's website is, and I'm going to spell this out again, Sedona. Okay, I spelled it wrong. SEDONANOMALIES.weebly.com. So check it out. You can also just type in his name, and you will pull up tons of information on this and what he's been doing. Now, Ben, what do you want to discuss next?
Oh, my. Well, we were discussing, one thing to bring up briefly here real bit, if people come out to visit Sedona, there's always the vortex tours where people can take you around and show you to the different areas. But Sedona is also a very good place for hiking. Now, a good telltale sign that you're in an area that has outflowing and inflowing magnetic energy is look for a juniper tree that looks like a corkscrew. The energy that emits there has a tendency to take juniper trees, and when they grow in a spiral. So if you're hiking and you find a tree that's shaped like a corkscrew, you're in a great area. Just sit down, relax, clear your mind, and see what happens. One other point with Sedona, whatever you bring to Sedona internally that's going on within you is going to get augmented. It gets accented. And this is going to sound way out there, but from my own experience and all of the people I've taken there, if you bring negativity to the area, you're going to feel it more. And that's a good way to get rid of it. It'll come to the surface and you can get rid of it. In the same token, if you want to do inner work to make yourself better or clean out all the old garbage, it's a great place to do it. It's excellent for that. And in my opinion, it's all due to the geomagnetic energy stimulating our mind that creates the media for us to do work.
That makes sense.
I don't know how else to describe it, and I say that in defense of the people that are up there and assign the term mystical to it. There's a natural explanation for it, but it does work. It has the same effect.
Well, now let me ask you this: if you found, say you're hiking along and you saw one of those juniper trees and it's twisted, so this is a good place, and you're just going to sit down, you're going to veg out for a little bit. For any loose rocks, or can you find like geodes or little pieces of quartz? I've done shows on stones, the frequencies in stones, and I have different stones that I carry sometimes, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Hematite, because I'm an empath. The hematite seems to help me if I have to go out into crowds and stuff. Sure. Would those little stones from the Sedona have the same effect?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You'll find red iron oxide stones that looks like sandstone, and periodically you'll find them embedded with little quartz crystals.
Okay.
The bulk of the quartz is beneath. Now, if you get down in by the creek, Oak Creek, and you walk where there are cliffs along that area, you can actually see pockets of quartz outcroppings sticking out of it. And yes, they do have that effect. Another thing that's in Sedona speaking of hematite, is magnetite. There are different, almost looking just plain rocks or like geodes that are magnetite, and that's going to have an effect on you too. It's all up there, all kinds of stuff.
Interesting. I have never been to Arizona. Very interesting. I would love to go.
Oh my, if you ever do, you let me know first, because I know where all the good spots are.
I will, because it would be fascinating to see what I feel there. Which is would be, it looks beautiful from the pictures. It looks absolutely breathtaking.
Mm-hmm.
So I would
and it
love
goes
to
on.
do
It's
it.
bigger than what you see just around Sedona, the town and the city itself. It goes on back in the Sycamore Canyon and Boynton Canyon. It goes back in there for miles. It's a very large area.
Now, the test, you said that, that your stuff is still ongoing, your testing and whatnot. What is some of the newest stuff, too, that you found out? I mean, I guess, tell me something that's just totally blown your mind. Because I know there's got to be a ton of it, because the more I research into your website, I'm like, wow, I just sit there and go, wow, I never knew.
Do you want out there a little bit, or just pure based on science?
You go wherever you want to go, Ben. I'm easy to get along with.
I'll just take this out there a little bit, and it's not an area that I'm real comfortable in going in depth to. Sedona is also known for a lot of UFO sightings and activity.
Correct.
Now, I've had 3 separate occasions in the last decade where I have had encounters up there with craft, and this is during one was right at sunset and 2 were during the nighttime. And Erin, I can't explain what they are. They were definitely craft. They're either ours or they belong to somebody else. I stay a little bit reserved when it comes to extraterrestrial intelligence, although I think it's such a big universe, why not?
Right.
There's activity up there. Who does it belong to? I don't know. I've had 3 encounters that I cannot logically explain. And let's say if this is extraterrestrial craft, I understand why they're there, because that area has such an intense natural energy field. It's going to bring a lot of stuff in here. I say this is ongoing because I'm able to measure the electromagnetic energy that emits from the ground, but there's more happening up there. And I just haven't developed the equipment to be able to detect and measure it yet, although I can sense it, I can feel it. Give me some time, because I will. And in another year or 2, I plan on retiring, and I'm going to be up there full time, and then there's going to be all kinds of discoveries going on.
Oh, that'll be cool, Ben. That'll be cool. I know. I wish you could put your finger and say it's doing this and this and this because of this. But there's just so much that we don't know about Earth itself. So
the biggest thing that Sedona does for people, if they are open to working with it, personally, I feel you can accomplish a lot of things. Even, what is disease? It's dis-ease. And as far as I'm concerned, whenever we have something physically wrong with us, it's a manifestation of what's going on internally electromagnetically. We're electromagnetic beings. In fact, the body's energy field, I am now designing the equipment to actually measure the body's magnetic field, which is shaped like a torus, like a toroid. And whenever there is something wrong in our body's electromagnetic field, it materializes itself into the physical. It manifests as, we'll call it a disease. As far as I am concerned, Sedona is another good area. Once you learn how to work with the energy that's there, to use it, and this is going out on a limb, but for self-healing, for bettering yourself. So there's so many things that can happen there, like the people that live there claim. I see myself as a bridge. I'm a bridge between the world of what you could call metaphysics and the world of science. And as I develop more and more equipment, I'll be able to show that that is a reality. So
I think you may be right.
More than just magnetic vortices. It's much more.
Well, we're learning so much because we are energetic beings, and everything is frequency. Everything, so we get out of the metaphysical. Everything is frequency. Yeah. We resonate with our own frequency. Mine's different than yours and everything, and it's fascinating. People talk, And there's one of the abstracts that you and Iona Miller wrote, the Sedona effect, correlations between geomagnetic anomalies, EEG brainwaves, and the Schumann resonance.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned here the brainwave EEG synchronization.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think, wow, you're getting really out there, Erin, it's really foo-foo, but it's not. I'm telling you, neurobiofeedback works along the same thing. And I could see where if you could go to some place that has all this geomagnetic surrounding you, how it could, I call it rebooting my brain, okay?
It's taking us back to our natural state.
Yes, it takes all the stress away.
That we are supposed to be in. Yes.
Right. And it works. I need a reboot. You know, there's certain songs that I have to listen to once in a while to kind of bring that neural reboot in when I'm getting kind of scattered. So I can see how this would work.
Vortex up there personally myself, and I call it defragging because my mind and my profession gets so analytical it needs defrag like a hard drive. And the best place to do that is sitting up in Sedona on one of those spots because it just clears you and takes you back where you should be. You balance with it.
It is. So, I mean, you're lucky. Now, how far is it from Phoenix to Sedona? See, I don't know at all.
120 miles for me, but as I said, within the next year I'm going to retire and I'll be there. I'll be within 18 miles. I will not live in Sedona. I agree with the original Native American inhabitants. The energy field that's up there is very, very strong. A lot of people move to Sedona. If they last 5 years, then they're going to stay there for a while. But so many people don't stay there very long because the energy is too strong. Too much of a good thing is too much.
Really? Okay. Huh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
There was even a monastery, from what I was told, a bunch of Buddhist monks had a monastery up there a number of years ago, and they lasted a year or a little bit more, and they left. They said the energy's too strong here. It was too distracting.
Now, how did that manifest? But what problems were they having?
I don't know. I'm getting this information secondhand that there was a monastery there, but they relocated and moved out of Sedona, and the word was the energy's too much.
Wow, that's curious too. You got to look into that, Ben.
There's hell, and like I said, there's a reason why the Native Americans didn't have their dwellings sprawled out all over Sedona. The energy was too much. It was a spiritual place. It wasn't necessarily meant to be lived in, and they knew that. They could sense and tell that.
That's true. That's true. Hey, we'll be right back after these messages, and you're listening to The Truth Traveler. Welcome back to The Truth Traveler. Our guest tonight is Benjamin Lone Tree. We're discussing the Sedona anomalies. Now, Ben, go ahead and give us another one of your aha moments.
I don't want to go too far out here on the fringe. Oh, my. Let's just say there is something else that goes on in Sedona that is probably, I'm going to say, ET related.
Okay.
I don't know what that means. There's been a lot of sightings of black helicopters, and God knows I've seen my share up there. I can't definitively say what they're doing or what's going on. I do not feel that our government is putting any type of subliminal messaging or distorting what happens naturally up in Sedona to mess with people or to do any type of mind control. I don't agree with that because I'd see it, Erin. My equipment would detect it. Really.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
But there is something else up there.
Well, now you also said you didn't want to spend the night out there again.
Yeah, I guess I get a little uncomfortable when I'm in the Sedona outback. If I get back to some of my favorite vortex areas, which are probably a mile or two out in I'll call it the outback because you're not by any buildings or structures. In the nighttime, it's just a little bit unnerving because there's another presence there. You can feel something else there with you. I don't know what that is. It's not Black Ops. It's not the military. Could it be extraterrestrial? Sure, it could be. I don't know what it is. I can't record it. I know I feel it. I know other people have felt it. What is it? I don't know, but it's almost as if certain areas that you go through, you're instructed turn around and leave. Don't be here. And what is the source of that? I don't know. It's an external source. It's not internal. So I just turn around and I leave. I go back the way I came, and I don't bother with it.
Now, is there an increase in psychic phenomena out there too, as well? I mean, that you obviously you can't measure it.
Yes. Yeah, I would say, yeah. People encounter and experience all kinds of things out there. As a scientist, I would, and I'll go back to the comment I made earlier, what you bring to Sedona internally within you gets accented there. So if you're troubled or something's bothering you and you come there, the energy that naturally stimulates you seems to bring that to the surface. So if you want to get rid of old baggage, old garbage, it's a good place to come, but be prepared to cry or feel depressed or feel totally elated when you finally release it. And that is due to the natural earth energy bringing that to the surface. It's the media that provides you with the ability to do that. And it can be very powerful. It can be very strong. And I've experienced it there. But as far as the aha moment, I've had an encounter with something else that's there that is not natural. It's not geomagnetic, and I have no idea what it is. It feels very, very foreign. It is not menacing. It's not malevolent, but yet it's not benevolent either. It feels foreign. Elemental, no, elemental is not a good choice of words. Elemental energies are a little bit different. And I got into that for a number of years to quite a few decades before I came down here with EVP and electronic voice phenomena. Right. So I have had some encounters with what I'll call the elementals, and it was too much for me. It's just I didn't want anything to do with it, so I left that alone. And then moved on into natural earth energy. When I used the term before that, this is ongoing. There's so much more there. I have just begun to scratch the surface of what exists up in Sedona. But like I said, give me time, because it's ongoing and there's going to be more and more and more. And my goal is to provide that bridge between the world of metaphysics or woo-woo or whatever people want to call it to actual mainstream science, because there is going to be an explanation ultimately for all of it.
I think there will be. Now, this is going to be a silly question, but are there any caves out there in Sedona?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, there's a very, very good one that I go to. It's not well publicized for good reason. It's called Schuman's Cave. And it is literally up on a mountain where the shaman hundreds of years ago used to be located. And that is a very, very powerful cave to be in. There's a lot there.
Okay, well, let's finish that up on the caves. Welcome back to the Truth Traveler. Our guest is Ben Lone Tree. We're discussing Sedona anomalies. Now, Ben, at the risk of really getting out there woo-woo, you'll probably want to slap me through the microphone, but I have this weird idea that a lot of the ancient peoples, like thousands upon thousands of years ago, had like a worldwide electrical grid, and they could use the grids like the ley lines, and like areas like Sedona with all that quartz and the magnetic field to kind of power stuff. Have you pondered that thought at all?
Yes, I have a friend up there that's the grid, let's call them ley lines, and I have a friend that lives up in Sedona that's a PhD. I'm trying to remember her entire credentials, but she does have the credentials, and she's been mapping the energy lines that are up in Sedona for a number of years. I haven't talked to her for a while, but it is being done. Does the global energy grid exist? Yes. I have another friend over in England that has been doing some mapping there. the original friend that's in Sedona doing it too. I have not become involved in that yet, Erin, or I'm going to end up spreading myself too thin here.
Right.
I like to compartmentalize, so when I arrive at something that's conclusive, then I can move on to the next thing. I don't like doing anything half-baked, or you end up with something instead of being definitive, you end up with being, well, maybe it is and maybe it isn't. I like proof of things, and I like to be able to prove them. Briefly backtracking, I had a friend, or have a friend by the name of Wilbur Allen, who is a photographer for National Geographic. He came out to Sedona about a year, maybe a little more than a year ago, and he contacted me as to a good place to go to set up his camera equipment for nighttime photography. And his goal was, if there are any craft there, he wanted to capture one. Well, he did, but as well as doing that, he had the same experience I did. He went to one of the outback areas at night. He had the same experience of, what are you doing here, leave, and he packed up and he went back to the hotel room. So
I don't blame him.
There's things at work that are there. They're not benevolent, they're not malevolent, they're just there, they exist.
Now, did he take pictures at night? Did he catch any orbs when he took pictures?
He did. In fact, I've photographed orbs up there. In fact, if you go to my YouTube channel, I have a very good friend up there, Raven. Her home is built on a magnetic spot where you sit in her den area and you take a movie camera and you just point the movie camera and play it, and then later, or record, and later on you play it back and you brighten it up a little bit, and you can see these little orbs flying around. Now, I was never a believer in orbs. I went, they're dust particles out of focus in front of the camera lens. But then I did my own recordings, and I had on one occasion at her house, I was actually able to see one. It actually came up, thumped me in my forehead, and then flew away and went up through the ceiling. And I was...
Did it really?
Yeah, I can't explain this. I don't know what they are. You know, they're not fairies, or they seem to be intelligently controlled, and I think it would be arrogant of humans to say we're the only creatures that inhabit this space, the three-dimensional, our planet. I just read an article put out by mainstream academia science. They're speculating now, you've heard of dark matter, they speculate that there are other beings potentially existing in a dark matter universe right alongside of us in the same space we're occupying now. So even mainstream science is starting to open up and go, there's more to what we realize. There's so much more going on.
Oh, yes. Oh, that I believe. I've gone out and taken pictures of orbs.
Yeah, they're fascinating.
They are.
Yeah.
My friend Marie and I, she lives in California, we sent orb pictures back and forth, you know. It's fascinating. You want to know what they are.
Yep.
And I don't have any answers.
The only thing that I can say is they're life forms, and they seem to be very benevolent. There's nothing bad about them. They seem to be very playful, and they just are. Where do they come from? I don't know. At Raven's house, they come right out of the floor, and they'll zip around the room, and they usually end up going up through the ceiling, and it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And like I said,
crazy but fun.
People were showing me these photos, and I went, yeah, you got a piece of dust out of focus, and it looks like a bubble. Yeah,
right.
They're not. There's more to it.
There's more to it. There is.
Yeah, and they're very predominant in Sedona, and that has to do with the magnetic energy. I'll use the term portal. These magnetic hotspots around Sedona seem to be little doorways for other things to come and go. I
was getting ready to bring that up to you. Get out of my head. A lot of people postulate that these places are like portals, maybe to another dimension.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. I can't prove it. And that's one thing you'll always find about me in my research. If I have something that I see, I'll speculate, but I'll say I'm speculating because I have no way to prove this yet, but I know it exists. I know it's there.
It's there. You just may not know what it is.
We live in a fascinating universe, and this planet is just incredible if we just open our eyes to what's around us. It's here, a lot of it.
Well, it's incredible how everything works together so we even stay on the planet. That's what gets me. I mean, without the magnetosphere, the ionosphere, everything, we would just be fried up. I mean, it's amazing how everything comes together and supports life on this planet. And I think...
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm not a religious person. I classify myself as spiritual through the experiences I've had in my life. But what's going on here, that I look at the planet Earth as a live being. She's a live entity. And all of this isn't by mistake. I want to say it's by intelligent design. What is that intelligence? I don't know. Let's call it the force, for lack of a better choice of words.
See, I'm more religious. I don't believe in a creator. And I just look at this and think, wow, somebody intelligently designed this. It's incredible. And I bet when you go out to Sedona, not that you go out there at night anymore, but I bet when you go out there at night, that I probably couldn't even explain it. I've never been out someplace like that where I can see the stars like that.
It's like you can reach up and pick one out of the sky. It's beautiful.
I would love to see it. I've always got, you know, the halos of cities and, you know, the drill.
Yes, I do.
It's just,
well,
I'd love to experience it.
You make the decision, never come out here. Let me know beforehand, and like I said, I'll show you the good spots.
Well, I would love to know that, and you've got a picture on your website, and I think it's the one I put up. I'll double check it. I think it's the one I put up on mine. I did. And you're sitting beneath that tree that's all twisted.
Uh-huh.
I love that picture.
Site. Right
Is it? Okay.
There's another one about 30 feet away from it. The one I'm sitting by is a real nice outflow of energy. And then you go further, you're up on a hill, so you go down a wash a little ways, maybe about 40, 50 feet, and there's another juniper tree that's in a big corkscrew. That's the inflow area. Because as I said, due to the laws of physics, whenever you have a magnetic outflow of energy, it has to reconnect back into the planet in the planet's main magnetic field. So that particular spot that you see me in, I love taking people there because if you're going to feel the energy, that's one of the great spots to do it in. Very strong area.
Now, have you ever taken a dog up there with you?
I haven't. I personally own cats. I love dogs, but I have cats because I can go up to Sedona for a day or two, and they're okay down here on their own. I'm not sure how dogs act up there. I'd have to ask some of my friends that have them.
So that'd be really interesting because dogs, well, cats too. It's just a cat. My cats would probably freak out, but I would like to see how the animals react, like at the inflow spot and the outflow spot. That would be really interesting to see because they're so much more sensitive.
Animals are naturally still in tune with the planet, whereas we humans have had everything programmed out of us. We don't exist in our natural state anymore, most of us, because we have all this external stimulation from the power grid and Wi-Fi and cell phones and all the rest of it, that we have forgotten how to be in tune with what naturally occurs within the planet and externally from off-planet, whereas, in my opinion, critters still remember how to do that. They haven't been deprogrammed like we have.
That's very true. Of course, then, you know, the cats and the dogs typically walk around on the ground, too, with their little bare pads. So it's just the animals are so much more sensitive to these things, too. I would just be real interesting to see if it had, like, a calming effect on them or... Because I swear sometimes I have cats, too. The cats will just sit there and blankly stare at a corner in your room, and you're like, wow, what are you looking at? What's up there that I can't see? You know, it's like, now my friend tries to take pictures when hers do that, and you'll see, in the pictures, you'll see a lot of orbs. So
I have had that same experience up at Raven Delacroix. She has a dog, a Scotty, and she has two cats. And whenever we're filming Orbs, you can see the cat sit and watch them go by, and they show up on the film later on.
Isn't that funny? It's so curious to me. I know we didn't plan on getting into Orbs tonight, but it's fascinating. So, anyway, there you go.
It is. But you made a very, very good point. the area up in Sedona, a portal is a very, very good term for it. And are these things coming through the portal due to the natural geomagnetic, or the geological structure of Sedona? Are there portals there? Yeah. And maybe what I've experienced in the outback that kind of told me turn around and leave is not necessarily extraterrestrial intelligence, but could very well be something else that's sharing the same space interdimensionally that says, hey, you're on my turf, get out of here. Hard to say.
That's right.
I don't know. It's all
I don't know either.
at this point.
Well, if you notice, the 33rd degree parallel around the globe has weird anomalies like everywhere, too.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll give you a good one along those lines. Several years ago, maybe 5 years back, NASA put up 3 satellites, and three or four satellites, and they positioned them around equal points around the planet, and they tried proving one of Einstein's theory, which they did. Now, Einstein's theory was when the planet Earth, because of its mass, is sitting on the, let's call it the fabric of space, it leaves an indent.
Ben, hold it right there, because I don't want to lose this. Our last segment's coming up, and it's real short. You just have to fly right into this, because I want to hear this. We'll be right back, listeners, and you're listening to The Truth Traveler. Welcome back to The Truth Traveler. Our guest tonight has been Benjamin Lonetree. His website is SEDONANOMALIES.weebly.com. You can also link to it from The Truth Traveler, or just type in his name. You're going to pull it up, I promise. He's got a lot of stuff up on YouTube, too, for you, so check it out, listeners. I just also want to remind you I'll be on Vince Finelli's show tomorrow, USA Prepares, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so check it out. And Ben, right before the break, you were starting to get into something. This is a short segment, so I'm just going to let you fly with it.
Okay, and I'll try to keep it short. NASA put up the 4 satellites, and they did a study over several years, and they found that the Earth, in fact, when it sits on the fabric of space, creates a vortex. So let's do some speculating, Erin. You were talking about the 33rd parallel and all of the anomalies that occur along it. Who is to say that the dimple that the planet creates sitting on the fabric of space that NASA is saying could be a vortex into other dimensions, and they use that terminology, who's to say that that energy or interdimensional tunnel cannot connect in the certain magnetic lines that traverse the Earth and go around the Earth, namely the 33rd parallel, and that creates portals for manifestations of other things that come through the fabric of space. Now, that's way out there, but it's something to speculate about. We're just beginning, through mainstream science, to scratch the surface. There's so much we don't know.
That's a very interesting thought. I hadn't thought about it like that, but you may be right. I'm going to have to ponder that one. Wow, okay. Yeah, it may be, because we just don't know anything, really.
Now, let me put one more out there. When you're sitting on a vortex in Sedona, I like to put it this way. If you're on an inflow, for me personally, I allow myself to connect into the planet, and I will visualize myself as an electromagnetic being rather than being all physical. Although you're right, we're a vibration, we're frequency. All matter is a vibrational frequency. I connect into the planet, and you can become, how do I say this? You can become one with the planet, connect into the sun's magnetic field, which the Earth does all the time anyway. They call them flux ropes. Look that one up, flux ropes. And from there you can connect out into the galaxy and into the universe. Now that sounds way out there, but again, I'm trying to draw the comparison to something you can explain scientifically versus the metaphysical. It's all it makes sense. It's just a matter of proving this. And I think mainstream science gradually is starting to do that.
I think they are, too. And we are frequency. Frequencies travel, too. I mean,
yes.
It's that simple. So it makes sense to me. When I understood that we are these wonderful electromagnetic beings, I don't know, it just opened up a whole new world for me.
Oh, yeah. That's our true nature, and this is a topic all unto itself. I had an experience 20 years ago where I lost some people very, very close to me, so I went on this big quest to try to disprove or prove we survived the death of the physical. And for myself, I am totally comfortable with saying we survive it because our true nature is electromagnetic in nature. And like Einstein said, electromagnetic energy changes form. It can never be destroyed.
That's right.
That's proven.
That is proven, and I believe in the Creator, and I don't believe we die. I believe that when our physical bodies die, our soul, our spirit, I believe we go to another dimension. Some people call it heaven, whatever you want, but I just believe we change form. Yeah, I agree with that. So no, that's not stepping out there in the weirdness realm for me at all. I think it's true. That's why death really doesn't bother me. I know that I'm not going to die.
And no, I've had my own encounter with that years ago when they talk about the tunnel and the light on the end of it. I've been there, so that's another topic in itself. We won't even go there tonight.
No, but that would be an interesting topic to hear your experience too, because there's a lot more people now just in the last few years speaking out about that.
In a nutshell, like so many other people, I could see the light at the end of it, and I was intercepted, for lack of a better choice of words, and told I had to go back because I had work to do, and I'll leave it at that. So part of what I do today, too, I look at it as I got a reprieve. I wasn't allowed to leave the physical as it is right now because there's things I was supposed to do yet. So that's what I'm doing with all of this. I'm trying to do what I'm here for lack of a better choice of words.
And you're doing very well. Benjamin Lonetree, thank you so much for sharing with our listeners tonight.
Oh, my pleasure, and I'd be glad to come back anytime you like.
I'll talk to you soon, Ben. Thanks, listeners, for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow night with Marty Oakley. See.
A little over a year ago, I began